In the eastern expanse of the Mojave Desert, miles and miles from nowhere, and unmarked on most maps, lies a one-of-a-kind monument to the spirit of adventure, camaraderie, and a life lived on one's own terms. This is the Husky Monument. It began in 1987 as a tribute to Jim Erickson, an avid rider with a deep love of the desert. Friends and fellow riders erected a monument in his honor, placing his Husqvarna motorcycle at the site where he spent countless hours exploring the vast Mojave. Hence, the Husky Monument, short for Husqvarna. Over time, additional memorials began appearing. A pair of boots fixed in concrete, helmet and goggles set on a post, a headstone or a plaque planted in the sand.
Clyde Allen Denner Jr., machinist, mechanic, builder, and dick.
Today, there are close to 100 plaques, stones, and markers, each honoring a fallen rider, and every year, the circle gets a little wider. Memorials are as different as the lives of the riders that they celebrate. Some simple, some elaborate, some funny, some profound. Many have tokens left behind by visitors, some coins, or a beer, or a six-pack. It's a beautiful and solemn place, and a perfect monument to this community. The sun is setting, and what a perfect conclusion to the first day of this Mojave adventure. Today, we covered 325 miles to get to the monument. We set out from El Centro early this morning, passing through the fields and desert of the Imperial Valley. As we rode along the eastern bank of the Salton Sea, we were greeted with the surreal sight of date palm plantations on a background of the snow-capped peaks of the San Jacinto Mountains. At the little town of Mecca, we turned off the freeway and rode the always fun Boxcar Canyon Road to the entrance of Joshua Tree National Park. Riding through Joshua Tree is always a treat. A twisty ribbon of pavement carves its way through the rugged landscape of jumbled mountains and expansive desert. The Joshua trees don't really appear in numbers until the turnoff at Park Boulevard. The scenery here is striking as always, with these gigantic mounds of piled rock sticking out from a sea of Joshua trees. But, as is often the case these days, the park was overrun with people today. After exiting the park, we covered roughly 100 monotonous, though sometimes scenic pavement miles, through 29 Palms, Lucerne Valley, and Barstow. At Kramer Junction, we picked up the 395, and it wasn't long before we were turning off the pavement and heading into the desert in search of the monument. I'd read that the monument can be a challenge to find, with a spider web of single track crisscrossing the area. Some articles described the route as big bike friendly, while others suggested more challenging conditions. Due to recent rains, we found the road surface to be relatively smooth and tacky. There were some puddles here and there, and occasional patches of deeper sand. But overall, it was easy going. Right up until this point. Passing through a patch of sand, my front wheel got kicked out of line and onto a berm, and before I knew it, I was on the ground. Given the soft landing, I'm surprised to see some pretty significant damage to the bike. The brake pedal got turned into a pretzel, and the windscreen got ripped right out of its mounts. The brake pedal is a very common failure point on the Africa Twin, and I find myself having to replace bent and damaged ones on just about every long adventure. So, I happen to be carrying a spare. And with a practice hand, I make quick work of it. Given the late hour, we decide to deal with the windscreen after we get to camp. After another hour or so of easy riding, we arrived at the monument just as the sun was starting to drop. We spent an hour or so exploring, and then headed back into the desert to find a place to camp. This old quarry site offers some protection from the wind and has clearly been used as a campsite before. So we decide to settle in for the night.
So what's the plan for tomorrow?